My fellow Americans, what you are seeing today on the border between Israel and Lebanon is not an accident. It is not a surprise. It is the direct result of weak leadership in Washington, confused strategy, and a total refusal to put America first. When America is strong, when our enemies fear us and our allies respect us, the Middle East is more stable. When America is weak, when Washington sends mixed signals and apologizes for its own power, chaos grows, Iran advances, and groups like Hezbollah feel brave. During my administration, we understood something very simple. Peace comes through strength, not through never-ending lectures, not through meaningless statements from think tanks, but through real power, clearly used and clearly limited. We did not stumble into new wars. In fact, for the first time in many years, America started no new major conflicts, but nobody doubted our resolve. Iran knew that if it crossed certain lines, it would pay a tremendous price. Terrorist groups understood that if they attacked our people or our allies, we would hit back harder than they ever imagined. Look at Hezbollah today. It has tens of thousands of rockets pointed at Israel. It hides among civilians. It uses Lebanon as a human shield. For years, the so-called experts told us, this is just reality. You can't change it. You can only manage it. That is the language of decline. That is the language of people who have given up. My approach was the opposite. You do not accept that your enemies get stronger every year while you do nothing. You use American power, economic, diplomatic, and when necessary, military, to cut off the money, to punish the regime that sponsors them, to tear down the networks that support them. That is why we applied maximum pressure on Iran. We did not send them pallets of cash. We did not beg them for a nuclear deal at any price. We put sanctions on their oil, on their banks, on the Revolutionary Guard. We told the world very clearly, if you fund Iran's aggression, you are going to have a problem with the United States. And when Iran's terror master, Qasem Soleimani, was plotting against Americans and destabilizing the entire region, we did not write another strongly worded letter. We took decisive action. The message was unmistakable. You cannot kill Americans. You cannot arm proxies to attack our allies and expect zero consequences. Because of that strength, Iran was on the back foot. Hezbollah knew that the cash flow from Tehran was shrinking. They knew that if they provoked a major war, they would not be facing a confused, divided Washington, but a president who understood exactly who they were and what they were doing. That kind of clarity, a clear do not test us message, prevents the very escalation the so-called experts claim to fear. Our enemies respect strength. They exploit weakness. Under my administration, they got strength. We also strengthened Israel in ways no other administration ever had. We recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. We moved the American embassy. We recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. Every foreign policy insider said, this will create endless violence. They were wrong. Instead of war, we saw something historic, the Abraham Accords, Arab countries normalizing relations with Israel, new deals, new flights, new cooperation. That happened because the region knew that the United States, under my leadership, was serious, reliable, and not afraid to stand with an ally. Compare that to what you see now. Israel feels threatened from the south by terrorists and from the north by Hezbollah's missiles. Iran feels emboldened. The United States sends messages that change every week, one day warning about escalation, the next day sending signals of unconditional support with no conditions, no plan, no red lines. That is how you create miscalculation. that is how you end up exactly where the analysts are warning, with every side claiming it is acting defensively while the situation spirals into a regional war. The truth is simple. When Washington is confused, the Middle East becomes more dangerous. During my time in office, there was no doubt about American priorities. We wanted to protect our people, protect our embassies, protect our soldiers, and support key allies like Israel. But we were not in the business of endless, undefined wars. If we used force, it was for a clear purpose, a clear objective, and a clear message. That kind of discipline is what keeps a crisis from exploding into catastrophe. Many people talk about deterrence as if it is an academic word. It is not. It is very real. Deterrence means your enemies wake up every morning and think, if we cross that line, we will regret it. Under weak leadership, that feeling fades. Under strong leadership, it becomes very, very real. The current situation on the Israel-Lebanon border is exactly what happens when deterrence erodes. Hezbollah tests the limits. Israel feels it must respond. Iran pushes its luck. The United States sends mixed messages. Each side climbs the ladder one step at a time, and pretty soon everyone looks around and realizes they are standing on the edge of a cliff. Under my leadership, we did everything possible to avoid that cliff while still defending our interests. We built energy independence at home, so we were not hostage to Middle Eastern oil. That gave America freedom of action. We could put pressure on bad actors without worrying that every move would crash our economy. We rebuilt the military, not to start wars, but to make sure no one wanted to fight us. We backed our allies with real actions, not just words. And we showed that you can be tough on Iran, tough on terrorism, and still move toward peace, as the Abraham Accords proved. If the United States speaks with strength and consistency, the crisis with Hezbollah and Iran can be managed. It will not be solved by speeches at conferences or by pretending that Iran and its proxies are misunderstood victims. They are not. They are organizations and regimes that survive by threatening others. The only language they respect is power, backed by resolve. My approach, America first, peace through strength. Put the United States in control of events instead of chasing events. The people who say America is in decline are wrong. America is only in decline when it chooses weak leadership, confused priorities, and endless excuses. When America chooses strength, clarity, and a president who actually understands how to use power, our country is still the most dominant force for stability and security on earth. The crisis on Israel's northern border is not proof that the American era is over. It is proof that America needs the right leadership, the right strategy, and the courage to stand firm. We can restore deterrence. We can protect Israel. We can contain Iran and its proxies, and we can do it without stumbling into another endless war if we return to a foreign policy that puts the interests of the American people first, that recognizes reality, and that is not afraid to be strong. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. For years, we have been told a very depressing story. We are told that America's best days are behind us, that our power is fading, that the world is multipolar now and nothing can be done. We are told that crises like the one in Lebanon, the chaos with Hezbollah and Iran, are proof that Western leadership has failed forever. That story is not only wrong, it is dangerous. It encourages surrender. It encourages weakness, and I absolutely reject it. The truth is that America is still the most powerful nation on earth. We have the strongest economy, the most advanced military, the most creative people, and more energy resources than anyone ever imagined. What we lack is not power. What we lack is leadership that knows how to use that power wisely. When I was president, I did not accept the idea that America had to apologize for its strength. I did not accept the idea that we had to be dragged into every conflict and pay for every mistake made by others. And I said something very simple and very honest: America first. That does not mean America alone. It means we put the safety, prosperity, and dignity of the American people at the center of every decision. It means our alliances are based on clear interests, not guilt or inertia. It means we do not sacrifice our factories, our energy, and our borders for some fantasy of a global system that nobody can control. When America does that, when we put ourselves first, we actually become a better partner for the world because we are stable, confident, and strong. Look at what is happening now. The crisis between Israel and Hezbollah, the rockets, the threats from Iran, the nervous statements from Europe. This is being presented as proof that the unipolar moment is over, that America cannot lead anymore. But ask a very simple question. Is this happening because America is too strong, or because in recent years American leadership has been too weak, too confused, and too divided? Everyone knows the answer. When Washington cannot decide what it stands for, other players rush to fill the vacuum. Iran pushes harder. Russia and China look for openings. Militias, proxies, extremists, they all become bolder. During my administration, that vacuum was not there. Our enemies did not know what they could get away with. Our allies knew exactly where we stood. We told NATO to pay its fair share. People said that would destroy the alliance. In fact, it made the alliance stronger because European countries finally started investing in their own defense. We told China the days of ripping off American workers were over. We renegotiated terrible trade deals. We stood up to unfair practices. That is not decline. That is what real leadership looks like. In the Middle East, we changed the game. We proved that you do not need endless wars to shape events. You need clear priorities and the will to act. We crushed the ISIS caliphate. We pressured Iran so heavily that its economy was on the ropes. We advanced historic peace deals between Israel and Arab states. These were not accidents. They were the result of a strategy that recognized reality. We knew that Iran's regime used proxies like Hezbollah to create a ring of fire around Israel and to threaten American interests. We did not reward that behavior. We punished it. And when Iran's chief terrorist thought he could travel the region freely, plotting, planning, orchestrating attacks, he discovered that under my leadership, the United States was not playing games. People talk about a multipolar world as if it is some kind of beautiful, sophisticated arrangement. In reality, what they are describing is a world where no one is in charge, where bad actors feel free to test limits, where conflicts spread more easily. Some countries like that chaos because it gives them room to move in the shadows, but it is very bad for ordinary people. It is bad for families in Israel hiding from rockets. It is bad for Lebanese families caught between Hezbollah and war. It is bad for American families who have to pay higher prices every time there is another crisis in the oil markets. The answer is not to give up and say, well, this is the new normal. The answer is to restore serious, disciplined American leadership that understands strength, understands negotiation, and understands when to say no. You saw that when we became energy independent, that single achievement changed the entire strategic picture. When America does not beg OPEC or Iran or anyone else for oil, we have more freedom to act. We can sanction, we can pressure, we can defend our allies without worrying that our own economy will collapse. That is how a superpower behaves. That is how you preserve real influence. The analysts who say America is trapped in its old commitments have it backwards. The problem is not that our commitments are too big. The problem is that for too long, those commitments were made and managed by people who did not know how to say, this is in our interests and this is not. They signed up for everything and finished nothing. They promised democracy in countries where they did not understand the culture or the history. They spent trillions rebuilding places that had no intention of becoming like us. Then when the American people grew tired and angry, the same experts suddenly discovered decline. When I came into office, I said very clearly that those days were over. No more nation building. No more endless wars with no victory, no exit, no plan. We would defend our people and our allies. We would strike terrorists hard. We would deter regimes that threaten us. But we would not pretend that we could remake entire regions through speeches and slogans. That realism, real realism, not the pessimistic kind used to justify surrender, is what the United States needs today. The crisis in Lebanon proves my point. Weakness does not bring peace. Ambiguity does not prevent war. When Iran sees Washington afraid to enforce red lines, when Hezbollah sees the United States sending one message in public and a different message in private, they move forward, they test, they probe, they escalate. When America speaks clearly and carries a big stick, the calculus changes. Suddenly those same actors think twice, 3 times, before taking the next step up the escalation ladder. They ask themselves, is this really worth it? That doubt is what protects lives. America does not have to accept a future where our soldiers are always deployed, our allies are always nervous, and our enemies are always advancing. We can have a different future, one where our military is so strong that it rarely has to be used, where our economy is so powerful that no sanction can be ignored, where our diplomacy is respected because it is backed by results, not by wishful thinking. That is the future I believe in. That is the future my policies were built for. So when you hear people say that the Lebanon crisis shows the end of Western power, remember this: power has not disappeared. It has been mismanaged. It has been diluted by ideology, by incompetence, by leaders who care more about their image than about your security. With the right leadership, with America first, with a clear understanding of who our friends are and who our enemies are, the United States can still shape events, prevent wars, and defend freedom. The world is changing, new players are rising, new technologies are emerging, but none of that changes the fact that America, if it chooses strong, smart, patriotic leadership, remains the greatest force for stability and peace. The problem is not that we are too strong. The problem is that under the wrong people, we stopped acting like it. I believe in this country. I believe in its people. I believe that when America stands tall, when America speaks with confidence, when America puts its own citizens first, the world is safer, our allies are safer, and yes, even our adversaries are less likely to start the very wars everyone claims to fear. That is not decline. That is leadership, and that is exactly what America needs again. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.